Eyes down for a Good morning, people. It's Monday. We've made a bad start. It's 12:35 and we are just preparing a wash tank, a nice clean wash tank and a nice clean brush and probably some white spirit to finish cleaning out this pump to put it back together with new seals. So I'll get my white spirit out and I'll bring you back when I'm doing something interesting. Right, I'll show you this now. This is called the relief plate and it fits in down there like that and presses it in, and its job, I presume, although I don't know, is to allow some pressure to escape through in between the gears, right, so that the pump is in effect not pumping anymore. That's the only use I can see for it. It's a strange little device. It doesn't fit on anything, it doesn't pivot on anything, but it goes in there. And I can see it's going to be a little bit awkward to get it in position when you rebuild it. But we'll see when we try and rebuild it. Unless, of course, you assemble the bearings onto there and put that in and then put the top on. That might be the way to do it. I don't know, I'll have a look. My manual, this is the genuine Fordson manual, and it does have details of how to rebuild the pump. So, hydraulic pump testing. So I assume it will be in there. I haven't looked yet, but we'll get it all clean first, and then I might put you on the tripod and we'll do a detailed reassemble of the hydraulic pump, because it is, I mean, the hydraulics is probably the most complex part of the tractor. Not that it's particularly complex, but there you go. So I'll bring you back when I've got all set up and got everything clean. Okay, bye now. Just to give you some idea of the condition of the oil pump inside, luckily none of it seems to be worn. The clearances between the pump gears, which is the critical part of course, is well within manufacturer's specs. So there you go. So it's just going to be a matter of cleaning all this crap out and then going back together. So that's what I'm on with now. I'm on with it. Clean bearings, clean springs, clean relief plates. Okay, bye now. Right folks, I've just taken the drive gear off. Right, now it does say in the manual, don't remove the drive gear unless you've got the special tool, because it looks like these can be a bit fragile and might break. It says don't use percussion or hit it or anything else. Well, what I did was I put a 3-leg puller on it, took the nut off of course and the tab washer, put a 3-leg puller on it, tightened it up tight, warmed the gear gently with the blow lamp, and carried on tightening it up, and pop, and off it came. And look at the filth behind it. I did this because I realised that these two bearings push out as well, and there are seals behind them as well. So I've got to put new seals in there. So now I can get the whole thing to pieces and give it a really thorough clean. So that's what I'm going to do next, to get the whole thing to pieces and give it a really good clean. So I'll bring you back when it's all done and ready for assembly. Bye now. Right folks, here we go. This is the start of reassembling the hydraulic pump. I've removed the back bearings from the pump. You should be careful not to mix them up or get them the wrong way around, because they're going back in. There's usually telltales that you can tell. See that rusty line there? It matches with that one there. See that staining there? That matches with that staining. Can you see that inside there? So I know that they're going back right. And anyway, I put little marks on them there. Right, so I know they're going back in the same place. I'm glad I got them out. I wasn't going to remove them, but I pulled that gear off. Wasn't as hard as I thought it might be. And I've got everything clean. We've got a nice clean working area with a cloth on it, with a light coloured cloth on it so we can see everything. Right, I've got a nice piece of clean white cloth to hand. I've put the new oil seals in there already, and we're about ready to reassemble. So we've got the manual on hand. There is full instructions of how to reassemble it, which is a good thing because I need full instructions. The only thing we don't appear to have is a new seal for the relief plate, and also these relief plates are graded in 3 different sizes. Now, because I'm not going to be making any huge demands on this hydraulic pump, all it has to do is lift the topper up and hold it there for a bit. I'm going to put this back in as it was, because there doesn't appear to be an oil seal, an O-ring for it. Now, I've got several O-ring kits there, which I'm going to check through when I get to that stage to see if I've got an O-ring to match. It's a bit odd there isn't a seal for it. That's obviously not it, that's a rigid seal. No, that's not it. Never mind, we shall overcome. I've fitted those seals. There also doesn't appear to be this seal included in the kit, but luckily I've just checked the projection of this seal and it's still fine, so I'm going to put that back as well. Unless that's it. No, too small. And that one's a square seal. That one's a square seal. I don't think it's that one. I suppose it could be, but I don't like changing an O-ring for a square seal. I'm going to put that one back in, that's fine. It's absolutely fine. Right, so we are ready to reassemble. The only problem is it's nearly 4:30, so I'm going to leave this till tomorrow and we're going to start putting it back together tomorrow. But you can see what you basically need. You need all your stuff laid out, you need clean hands, you need clean components, and you need clean cloth on hand. This doesn't actually look very difficult. Nowhere near as difficult as I thought it might be. But there you go. Right, that's all for today, folks. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye now. Oh, just one other thing. I've got my prop shaft back with my new bearing pushed on it. It was rather expensive. The bearing was very cheap, it was 12 quid. But the labour was expensive because he has had a real job with it. Because he's had to heat that spacer up to get it off. I didn't think I'd get it off with an extractor, and their press is 75 tonne. So I think he's had a bit of a job with it, because if a 75 tonne wouldn't shift it, the 20 tonne that I was looking at buying wouldn't have shifted it either, would it? So anyway, there it is, new bearing fitted, all paid for and ready to go back on. I've got the circlip that holds it into the housing, so that's ready to reassemble. So we're getting close. When this pump's back together, we can put the housing and filter back in, the cover back on, the pump back in, of course, and we can get that. We can make a start on this, make a start on stripping this down, because the only thing I'm waiting for now is a O-ring seal for the PTO gearbox there, and a big piece of gasket paper, so I can make a gasket for here, because unfortunately my gasket paper isn't in big enough sheets. I've got they're about 9 inches square, and that needs a foot. It needs 11.5 inches, I think, across there, so it's a big gasket. I couldn't get a gasket, so I'm going to make one. But we're also waiting for that seal to come, so that I can put a new seal on round there. I don't think it's worthwhile risking getting the whole bloody thing back together and it leaking. When that goes back on, after that's put back on, I can then put the propeller shaft, PTO shaft, back in, and then there's just this top bit to do, which is all the hydraulic cylinder and the valve chest, which is supposed to be a lot more complicated than the pump, but we will see what we will see when we get there. So that's it for Monday, folks. Now tomorrow I'm probably going up to the field with youngest daughter and boyfriend to show them how to assemble the tent. So it will be another late start tomorrow. Because I'll say that again. Tomorrow I shall be starting out probably up at the field with our tent, and I'll be showing my youngest daughter and boyfriend how to assemble it, because this coming weekend it's Trib Fest and they'll be going to Trib Fest to spend the weekend there. So it'll be another late start, but we'll get some more film tomorrow and we'll actually film the reassembly, and then it's a documented record of how to reassemble the hydraulic pump on a Fordson Major E1A. I only hope I don't cock it up. Alright, see you later peeps, bye now. Morning people, it's Tuesday, it's lunchtime, so it's not really good morning, and I've put the tent up and I forgot to film it like an idiot. So, oh look what's hiding under there. So now we're here at the workshop to straighten tent pegs, and then we're off back to Driffield, and then I'm coming back here to do more pump. So I'll see you in a bit. Bye now. Good morning people. It's Wednesday and we're on with reassembling the pump. The first thing you've got to do is get everything clean. The second thing is you take the two rear bearings. The rear bearings have the deeper flange on them, and you put them in to the pump body. These have no seals around here, right, so they just push into the pump body and lock in the back, and that's what I'm going to do first. They go in. Let's check you've got the telltales correct. That's right, they're the right way around, so they're fitting like that. Push down, and the final one pushes down hard to lock the two together. Then they should be flush in the middle, like that, and like that. So that's part one done. Right, so I'll bring you back in a minute. Right, the next thing we do is fit the driving gears. Now if you get the body with the inlet at the bottom and the outlet at the top, the driving gear goes in this side, and the driven gear, which is equal either side, goes in that side, like that. So that's part two of the reassembly done. I'm now going to get some oil and just oil those shafts just to make sure that there's some oil there if it hasn't soaked in. Okay? Right, the next part is to enter the front bearings onto there and manoeuvre those until they lock in position and fit right down. Right, so I'll just see if I can do that on camera. They go that way. Yes. Like that. Yes, we have to put a bit of pressure on this. Just not quite going in. I'll have a look at that and I'll bring you back. Right. Can you see what I'm doing? Yes you can. I've got them in. It says in the instructions, it's quite right, that you have to turn them both in an anti-clockwise direction so that the springs, the little spring wires that join them together, compress and go in. What I used was piece of cloth around the boss and a pair of water pump pliers on each one, right, and then you have to turn them together anti-clockwise and click, all of a sudden they go in. So that's that done. Right, on to the next piece. Right folks, the next thing we have to do is locate the pressure relief plate. Where it goes, you can see the telltale there, nearest to the inlet port, and that just fits in there like that, and its seal compresses until it fits inside the other O-ring, and smoothly against the back of the body and the back of the two bearings. I've also checked that the pump rotates freely, and it does rotate beautifully. So that's the next component in place. I've also put some oil on these bearings, just so they've got some oil, and that will flood some oil through it before I put it on and just turn the gear to pump oil around it. Right, so that's the next part in place. I think the next thing to do is to put the cover on, but I shall just check back and I'll get back to you. Right, and the final step in reassembly is to lubricate this, fit the seals to the bracket plate, fit the seals to the inlet and outlet, and then to fit the plate and make sure that you don't knock this out of place as you fit it. So there we go, so that's what I'm going to do now, and I'll bring you back when I've just clipped it in place. In fact, I'll see if I can do it on camera. Let's see how easy this goes. And there she goes, folks. That's it, she's closed it beautifully. Right, get the bolts in, and that's the job done. So I'll just sort the bolts out, check that they're clean, and I'll bring you back. Right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 short bolts, a medium-sized bolt and a long bolt. It's pretty obvious where they go. All the short bolts are recessed. The medium-sized bolt goes in the unrecessed hole, and the long bolt goes in the hole next to the outlet. There we go. We're all done. So the only thing left to do now is to tighten it up, and the hydraulic pump is reassembled. We have to fit the gear, the key, the nut, and the tab washer on the outside. And that's it. Right, I'll bring you back when I've done it. Right, that's all our bolts fitted. The workshop manual says tighten securely. It does not give a torque setting. So, given that these are into aluminium, I'm just going to use firm hand pressure on a ratchet to tighten them up. They're all got spring washers on. It's very unlikely they'll come loose. And then we finish off by turning round. They're the old seals. We finish off by turning round, fitting the key, the gear onto the taper, and then the nut and lock washer. Right, so that's it, folks. That's how to put together your Fordson Major E1A hydraulic pump. Right, I'll bring you back when there's something more to show you. Bye now. Just note when you're refitting the tab washer that the little tab on the washer fits into the keyway on the gear, so that the washer can't turn. It's obvious if you know, but if you don't know, it's probably mystical. There we go. And I shall tighten it up in a minute and knock its tabs back over. Right then, that completes the reassembly of the hydraulic pump. Bye now. Right folks, I'll start again. It spat its dummy out and said SD card error, which I don't believe. Right, we're in a position now where we can start putting it back together. Isn't that exciting? We can put the pump pillar mounting plate, which is also the filter plate, back on the underside of the tractor. We can put the filter back in, we can put the cover back on, and we can put the pump back in from the top. We can't put the PTO shaft back in yet because the sealing ring for the PTO gearbox hasn't come yet, and also the gasket paper to make the gasket for the PTO gearbox. That will be here today, fingers crossed, and that means we'll be able to put all that lot in tomorrow, and then we can start on the hydraulic cylinder and control valve. So I'll get suited up, overalled and hair netted, and we'll do that. Okay, bye now. That's the pump pillar on, or the filter housing if you like. There it is, all nicely hermetited and gasketed up. And there she is underneath. There she is underneath. So the next thing to do is to put the filter and filter cover on. The filter doesn't appear to hold itself in, so I'm going to have to do it all at once. So I'm going to get a layer of hematite on either side of the gasket, and then we're going to go for that. Okay, going back together, isn't it exciting? Bye now. And there we go, folks. Just remember when you're putting red hematite on, although I'm lucky because this is old school hematite. I managed to get some new old stock from an engineer's suppliers. I had 3 tubes. I've just put another tube in this. I've got 1 tube left. Hematite today is not the same and nowhere near as good. But when you're putting it on, you're not making a greedy boy's jam sandwich. You just need a thin layer of it to keep the gasket in place and to seal it all when it tightens up. That's all you need. Okay, bye now. Right folks, that's the filter in and the filter casing. Probably can't see that. There we go, that's the filter case, filter in, filter casing, lid on and bung on. And now, I wonder if I can do this one-handed. Probably not. We fit the pump. No, I can't do it one-handed. So I'll put it in and bring you back. Just a minute. Cheers folks. 3 bolts hold it in. Slot it into position. And now just time to bolt it up. So off I go. I shall put something in the top of the pump. Maybe even, actually I could put the pump feed pipe back in, couldn't I? And then just put a sock over the end of it or something just to stop it getting mucking. Right, onward. There it is, new O-rings fitted and clicked back into the pump. So, next thing I'll do is make a gasket for that panel, bung, cover plate, whatever you want to call it. I shall put that back on. Right, we'll go and tap a gasket out. See you in a minute. Right folks, I've adopted a slightly different technique for making this gasket because I can't easily hold this and it's going to rock all over the place if I try and tap on it. So I've just flipped it onto the gasket paper, drawn around it, got the circle cut out, and then I've gone round it with a dirty finger so we know where the inner part is, just rubbed round it to produce an edge, and then I can just cut here, cut round it, and then last job I'll do is pop the holes in it. They probably can be tapped out or at least rubbed out. If you get a ball peen hammer like that, place the ball peen hammer over the hole through the gasket paper and just rub it like that. It'll cut the paper beautifully. Also you can use these punch, if you mark them, you can use this type of punch as well to make the holes. But I've only got a few of those. I mean that looks like the right one actually. But yes, that would probably do it. We'll see how it goes. Alright, that's how you do that. Bye now. And there we are folks, and it almost fits. Actually it's a very good fit. There you go. Okay, gasketeer. Bye now. Another one bites the dust, and that's that plate back on. So, what next? What shall I do next? I think I'll have a tidy up and a cup of tea, because we are in a bit of a mess and all the muck is now over with. So that's what I'll do. Tidy up, cup of tea, wash hands, clean jack down, clean floor, sweep up sawdust, etc, etc. It's all beginning to look very good indeed. Or at least better. We have less bits on the bench, more bits on the tractor. Another job I should do today actually is to just wire brush that out and clap some paint on it because it's rusty. I could put the gear stick back on. I could do the wiring on that nut and probably put that. Oh no, I won't put that back on until I've got the gaskets for it. I need to make a gasket. I need to make a gasket for the gear stick cover as well, because that one's knackered. So that's the one off the prop shaft cover, wherever that is there. That's off the prop shaft cover there. so I don't need to make one for there. There we go. The pile of bits is getting smaller, and the tractor is going more back together. Right, cup of tea, tidy up. Bye now. Gear stick back on with the new gasket made. Bit fiddly to get back on, but you can get your hand underneath and check that the little ball on the end of the gear stick drops into its cup. And what a difference that is now it's been lubricated, because that was nearly seized up. So that's another thing done. And I'm just drinking my tea, and I've just done a bit of sweeping up, and I've put that cap back on, cleaned that cap up, put that cap back on, and I think that's about as far as we can go on reassembly for today, because as I said, I'm waiting now for that big piece of gasket paper and the O-ring for the prop shaft gearbox, PTO shaft gearbox. I will call it prop shaft, PTO shaft gearbox. Right, so that's sitting there with a sock over it to keep the muck out the bearing. So I shall continue to tidy up. Posh cover. Bye now. There we are, folks. We've had a clean up and a hose out. We've got most of the black off the floor. We're looking decent again, or at least half decent. We've got a clean bench, so we're ready for the hydraulics. So what I'm going to do now is have a clean up around all these nuts and bolts. Chuck those bits. Oh, good. I missed that, didn't I? Right, I'll get rid of that. I'll have a clean up around these nuts and bolts. I'm going to have this taken off, I think, just before we go home at 5 o'clock. Okay, I'll bring you back when I've done it. Bye now. So here we are, folks, 4:30, and we're in. So you take off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They say 6 bolts. I say 7 bolts. Remove the 6 bolts. Well, all those hold this together. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and one in the middle. 7. So there you go. So you remove the 7 bolts. The outer ones, that one, those, that one down there, that one down there, and that one down there. Right? And she comes off, and there's the cylinder. So I'll pull this off now, get it on the bench, and see what we can see. Alright, bring you back in a minute. And there she is. 7 bolts, not 6. And as you can see, she's fairly full of crud. Very nasty. There's a hydraulic piston down there, can you see that? But the bore does look okay. In fact, the bore looks really good. I've got the gasket off in one piece. So the first thing we have to do, I think, is tap this until it comes free from the valve block. So that's what I'm going to do now, and I'll bring you back when it's off. Bye now.